My first stages of drawing was with my father, when he used to make me try and draw him a perfect circle when he used to come home from being at work in the pub at night, and I'd have to sit there and try and draw a circle perfectly, because he told me that all artists had to draw a circle perfectly to be a good artist. So I remember I wasn't very good at art in my HSC. I was pretty excited that I dropped maths to take on art for the HSC, and I ended up failing, and that took me many years to get over that failure. So it's interesting to see where I've ended up and how art's taken its course, being a part of my life that I really didn't think would ever happen again. My life changed dramatically when I had a spinal injury, and it's taken me onto this path of art which I'm now experiencing and is the most part of my life. It's actually been a long time for recovery from operations, and it got to a stage where there wasn't much for me to do to make myself feel better. My life changed when I met Craig and moved up here to northern New South Wales, right here to where we are today. It gave me a sense of balance and a nurturing feel with my environment. So I think that's what led me on the path of wanting to rediscover art. I'd taken some lessons previously, about 12 months before I had gotten sick, and it just seemed to be the thing to try and do to get myself out of the chair and into another chair, but a reason to do something and something to look forward to. So it wasn't until I met a friend called Kay, who's a boat builder, who was able to give me the materials to be able to paint and the tools to be able to paint, and that was by designing an easel that went the opposite direction to what other easels do. So that created a whole new ball game and a way for me to be able to paint, because I can't sit and paint and I can't stand and paint. So the only one way to do it was to lay and paint. Without that easel, I wouldn't have been able to paint. So most artists would paint standing at an easel, walk 5 feet away, look at their painting, see how it's going, come back to it. But because I lay in a different position and the easel comes forward, I'm restricted. Once I'm in my chair, I'm basically there for a while. It's difficult to get in and out. So I work with a side table and I twist and turn my neck as little as I can. So before I start, I always make sure that I have a palette, and with that palette, I stick to that palette for a few hours until I move again, because it's too difficult trying to find more paint and redo the process. So I work a lot with what I've got. So my work is very close to me, which isn't the best, but I've learnt to do it, and I've learnt to cope with spatial issues. So having it so close to you, I don't always know how it's turning out until I get up and look at it. Could be after a couple of hours. So normally what's there stays there, and then I just work with it. So when it comes to how often I paint, it varies. So I try to paint every day until I just can't get the pain to go away long enough to paint some more. Usually then it's about a week to get over the episode of painting. I just try and paint as much as I can in well time. I have to say, sometimes when I do paint, I can get so caught up in it that there is no pain anymore. And that's why I paint as often as I can and whenever I can. To be able to paint, it's just changed my life, because it's given me something to focus on. It's given me a reason to finish something. It's created an amazing community that I have around me now, that friends are artists, and it's a great support unit which I didn't even have before. So at the moment I paint landscapes and seascapes. I paint them because that's what I see around me every day. I walk in a rainforest or a snorkel that I remember I once used to be able to do. So it's memories and experiences that go hand in hand in a painting. And sometimes they're just parts of one place or another, or they're places that I've been to. And it's just trying to bring all parts of nature together and how I see them. Because I'm using different mediums now, I have different processes, but they're all based on what I can physically do. So there are no pre-sketches like others do. Hardly any time do I have clean water sitting there. More brushes than stopping to try and clean them is all part of my process. But with both oil and acrylics, I use the same starting process. So it's all very wet and fluidy, and I just throw acrylic and mix acrylic and water and just throw it onto a canvas. Obviously it's a physically an easy way for me to cover a canvas. It's a good way to start a painting, which in turn becomes blurry, and other times it's more contrasting. But when you throw it on, you could say you have no control, but at the same time, it ends up being not just an accident, it becomes a base for a future composition. I also like to try and leave parts of the original acrylic somewhere in the painting, just to remind me about where I started, because I think that it's quite important for me to remember where I start, because often I start a painting in pain, and it's a good recognition of the therapy that's going to take place. Sometimes I might leave raw canvas. I intentionally do that because it's like different pathways that you can find through a painting as you're progressing through the artwork. And I think that they can sometimes turn into anything. It could be a little bubble of white canvas that shines through. That might turn into a bubble from a crab or something like that. With pastels, I draw more than I paint with them, and the end result is tiny strokes that layer and layer and layer, and from that it becomes a painting. My work has been a little selfish because I've started a painting to put my mind off pain and finished it in pain, just to prove to myself that I can do it. So I just do it with whatever time I can get. I've asked myself a lot of questions along the way over these last 2 years while I've been doing this body of work. And I remember that Van Gogh was once asked the question, "Do you think you will ever be any good?" And his response was, "You've got no idea whether you're going to be good or not. You just do it." And to me, that's what I've done. I've just tried to do it. Hopefully what you see in my artwork today will be what we can still paint in the future, because we need nature still to be the way it is today. To me, my paintings are really about rest, reflection and healing. So I hope everybody gets a little bit out of that when they look at my painting. I would really like to see others with disabilities use art in the same way. If I can lay down and paint, I'm sure there are ways that people can learn how to paint as well. I would like to see people try and find other ways and be creative in ways that their body can't stop them from doing something that they really love to do. So the satisfaction in finishing a painting is so important. It's worth every bit of the struggle, and to have an audience appreciate what you have done is a bonus. And my life would be nothing without my art.